Hello there. Last time we found a hidden passage in the chapel close to the manor, and now we're going to have a look. Huh. Most of the books scattered in the hidden room were about occultism and African culture. Even their titles were disturbing. Strange titles such as De Vermis Mysteries gave me the shivers. As much as I love books, I didn't even dare to open these. April 5th, 1963. Christopher, these may very well be my last notes in this regard. I'm afraid Catherine has already realized what I've been doing here all the time. In vain I've tried to explain myself, and I know what might have been the outcome had I kept insisting. If you could only believe me, Christopher, because I know you intend well, but I can feel the doubt in your heart. Put your rational thoughts aside for a moment and yield to the facts. If I can do it, someone who is constantly taught in the wonders of science ever since his childhood, then so can you. I'm hoping that you will contemplate the possibility of some truth in my assessments once you read about my latest findings. It is imperative that you carry on with this task. Catherine is watching my every step, and I'm afraid she'll take strong measures if I do anything out of the ordinary. Did you know she has been talking to other doctors besides you, and psychiatrists? My God, Christopher, I fear that she's willing to shut me up in a madhouse. How is it possible that all of you won't believe me? As if what happened with my own son wasn't enough proof. In my adjacent notes you will find an exhaustive essay on the origin of the curse and what should be done to eliminate it. I know the whole amulet deal must sound crazy, but you have to trust me. The tribe has been doing this for centuries. Are you going to forfeit all that knowledge and experience? They faced a god, Christopher, and lived to tell it. Now it's our turn to live and tell the story. And Christopher, if we fail to remove the curse and anything happens to me, I want you to do it. And I have my complete mental faculties whilst I'm asking you this. It has been becoming more and more dangerous lately. Do not hesitate. There is simply no other way. And you would be the only one left who can do it. Promise me. Promise me you will. I know I'm asking you to become a cold-hearted murderer, but Christopher, our lives and possibly many others are at stake. Isn't that enough to forget your vow? March 26th. The folklore of the Dalmar is just as disturbing as their vicious attacks. If my researches have been correct, then I could have stumbled upon one of the most ancient tribes ever known to humanity, dating back to the era where the so-called Bushmen inhabited South Africa. We're talking over 20,000 years ago. How could any civilization manage to survive all this time without ever hunting or expanding, just being there? I don't dare to imagine what 200 centuries of inbreeding and cannibalism can do to people. I've seen them, and they can't be called humans. What is most unsettling is their mystical background. Impossible to consider it a religion due to a complete lack of basic rules and maturity. The only simple premise is to keep an evil entity at bay, which has been stalking them since the beginning of time or dark ages. At this point in my research, I had to stop and consider the implications. The Dalmar actually thought of their later period, the systematic slaughter of mankind, as good times or golden ages. I thank the Lord that this tribe never managed to grow, as I seriously think the region, maybe even the entire continent, would have suffered terrible consequences. This history is so ancient that it makes me feel dizzy. the vengeful god, which is incidentally referred to as Dolum, would control the Dalmar via its many incarnations. Most of the time it would be a tall feline-like figure, always dwelling in shadows and slaying any villager who would unwittingly come close. Some say its deadly claws would not only penetrate your body, but your soul. The purpose of the harassment is unclear. It would look as if the Dalmar were simple toys to play with. It seems then that the Dalmar managed to free themselves from its clutches with the help of an amulet or charm, effectively forcing the entity to retreat. The most curious thing is how this amulet was conceived. Two main elements were required to perform the exercising of this evil, and they had to be strictly related to each other, one representing the victim and other representing the victimizer. To achieve this, something related to each one was used. While I'm not sure what is referred to as the victim, I think it can be concluded that anything belonging to any villager would have served, given that they were all victims. As for something representing the victimizer, that may have been more complicated. What could possibly be related to a god, this god in question? Next, these elements had to be mixed with a rare medicinal plant native to the region, which apparently had the properties to blend both items together, as long as they were not too solid. Finally, a branch of a particular tree, whose name escapes me now, had to be used as the holder of the blended items. It is on this item that the mysterious blessing was performed. It should be noted that all the elements had to be organic. The Dalman successfully released themselves from the control of the vicious god with an intense ritual that seems to have taken days to perform. In the end, the amulet was so powerful that the entity surrendered to their will and offered divine power in exchange for sacrifices. But the Dalmar wouldn't allow themselves to be fooled. They decided that getting rid of this evil once and for all would be the wisest thing to do, so they managed to capture its spirit and store it someplace where they could guard it for ages to come. My God, the evil spirit was cast into a mask, trapped inside the confines of its blessed wood for eternity. A mask which its description bears uncanny resemblance to. Who am I fooling? It is that mask. The Dalmar would keep the spirit at bay via regular rituals, involving the bloody sacrifices and the aforementioned amulet. The last book I read today about the Dalmar, in reality 2 small paragraphs, as amusing bonus reading in a book lent by the museum, has revealed to me something that left me completely paralyzed with terror. I've always wondered since I began studying them what made the Dalmar savagely slaughter neighboring tribes without any apparent reason. Was it a violent raw instinct? Did they feel threatened in any way? Was it by a perverse and ungodly sense of enjoyment? No, it was fear. Fear that someone else would take the mask and release the god. They killed to protect themselves from falling again into the dark ages. If they went to such extreme lengths to avoid this, then what did they have to endure when the entity was free? The rituals haven't been performed on the mask for years now. What have I done? What have I done? I was shocked to learn about this evil. Terrible as it was, I still wonder to what extent James Blake would went to get rid of the curse. So, if all this is true, that means, well, as it was written, as it was written in there, that means that he, by stealing the mask, did something really stupid. We are going to call Jerry again.
Yes?
Jerry, it's me.
Michael, I was about to call you.
Why?
I've been thinking about what you told me, and you could be onto something there. But I'm worried about your safety now. This could be dangerous.
What do you mean by dangerous?
Well, let's suppose you're right, and James Blackwood is indeed hiding somewhere inside the house. He's a madman, a murderer, and your life could be in danger.
Jerry, if James Blackwood is still alive, he'd be nothing more than a harmless, decrepit old man. I don't think I'd have any problem outdoing him.
And what if he is armed?
I'm willing to take that risk. He surely knows I'm here by now. What if he's waiting for me to leave so that he can escape? I can't miss this opportunity.
The opportunity of what, for Christ's sake?
Of knowing. I'm already too much into this, Jerry. And if I don't know what happened inside this house, I won't be able to sleep again.
You're obsessed. You were supposed to finish your book, get some rest, and now look at this. What are you going to say to your editor?
Who knows? Maybe this whole episode inspires me to write that ending. I'm sorry. I can't leave this now, Jerry. It's too late.
I can't believe this. I don't understand you. Doesn't the possibility of spending another night in that house with a creepy old man hiding in the basement scare you?
I know what you're trying to do. Goodbye, Jerry.
Michael? Michael! It's dangerous, do you hear me? Dangerous! You have to leave that place!
I'll keep you informed.
Oh, look at that. A letter. No, not that one. The other one. Notice of eviction. Mr. Michael Althate, due to irregularities during its acquisition process carried over by Mr. Jerry P. Carter, you are ordered to immediately leave the property known as Blackwood Manor. If you fail to comply, legal proceedings will be enforced against you. You have 2 days to effectively abandon the property. After the issuing of this notice, we take no responsibility for the courier service. A police officer is due to arrive at the Blackwood Manor on Tuesday, October 15th. Should you be present, you will be immediately taken into custody without further notification. The National Trust. Huh. Oh, by the way, I guess this shows that the game takes place in the story takes place in 1976. And all this probably means that the note of eviction was until today. So that was the reason why Jerry wanted me to leave the house so badly. I bitterly realized that he wouldn't come for me and that it was up to me to find a way to leave the house. Well, let's take the car battery and go to the garage or workshop kind of thing here, because we found something there that we can use. So basically we're giving the battery a little, tiny little charge. So we can start the car, and because of the eviction notice, leave this place. I mean, we have no other choice, right? The letter told us we have to go now. Jerry told us we should go now. There's no point, right? As I prepared myself to leave the manor, I suddenly felt responsible for disturbing the forces that had up to now lain dormant inside the house. I had to do something. And what that something is we're going to follow the instructions and make that amulet. Now, the victim, in this case, as victim, you need to have something from Catherine, who's supposed to be the victim. And according to the picture that we found, the tower was casting a shadow somewhere here. I always have problems finding this. Yeah, I was wrong. Let's see. I was equally terrified and saddened upon uncovering the dead body of Catherine Blackwood. All those years, she was left to rot in this improvised tomb. The corpse was all contorted and rotten beyond recognition. What horrified me most was the aspect of its teeth leaping out at disturbing angles. Doing my best to contain my repulsion, I pulled out a tooth from the body. I quietly left, burying Mrs. Blackwood back to her dead, cold dreams. I had to cut there because it's always really hard to find the right spot, and I didn't want to waste your time with that. Even when I know where it is, it's kind of hard. You have to really hit the exact spot to dig. Well, now with that, we have the victim. I guess Catherine makes sense because the Blackwood family was the victim. Kind of like the text said that in the case of the tribe, every member of the tribe was a victim. Now we need something to represent or symbolize the victimizer, so that evil god that is contained in the mask, allegedly. It also said it has to be organic, so we can't just take a splinter of the mask. However, the text also said that the deity, before it was trapped in the mask, was often harassing and stalking the tribe in the form of a lion or a feline. And here is a lion's claw. So we're actually going to take that. So now we have something that symbolizes the victim and something that symbolizes the victimizer. We have the branch, and there also was something about a certain African plant, which I think is the one in the greenhouse. Look at the sky. Maybe I should turn off the water. It's kind of a waste, don't you think? I know it's just a video game, but I feel better now. I took a few leaves with me. Speaking of leaves, now we leave. Oh, I can't believe I said that. Okay. Now this is almost the final step for creating the amulet. We take this and grind it. Kind of a disgusting thought, but that's what we have to do. Let me try to remember. I think we still need to boil it. Yeah. We have one last match. And maybe you remember from, I think from the very first episode, that in this room there was a stove. This thing here, where we replaced the third metal rod that was missing. Now the lid that we picked up earlier finally is useful. We put this on top of it. Come on. And then we use our last match. Or maybe we don't. Okay. I attached the stone to the branch and immediately felt a strange sensation. The amulet seemed to be vibrating. I was ready. As if it was aware of my intentions, the mask now appeared as if to defy me, challenging me to make the first move. Bring it on. I waved the amulet in front of the mask and then... At first nothing seemed to happen, but then the atmosphere felt lighter, as if the house had been relieved of a monstrous burden. Nothing else seemed to happen. Whew. So that went better than expected. Finally. I stood there paralyzed as I heard those horrible noises again. They just wouldn't stop. Would you look at that? The wood we burned earlier. Underneath it was a grate. As I went down the fireplace, I couldn't shake the feeling of entering a forbidden zone, a place that had been and was supposed to remain forgotten in time. The only noticeable feature of the room was a filthy and cracked sink. The passage was full of junk. Pipes rusted long ago were everywhere in here. I remembered being soaking wet and shaking in fear, yet I just had to go on, as if driven by an unseen force. There were remnants of food on the table. Someone or something had been eating down here. A disgusting teddy bear, covered in mud and dirt, was lying on the ground. It appeared to be bites that had ripped its neck. Suddenly the words of William Bailey concerning the body of Catherine Blackwood echoed in my head. Ripped, she would say.
Unsure of what I had just seen, I raced my car and left Blackwood Manor as quickly as possible. I'm not ashamed of what I did. That disfigured face is still stalking my nightmares, and I've never put foot inside a Victorian house ever since. But there's certainly one thing that I'm grateful for. It was thanks to my encounter below that house that I was able to finish my book and become a prolific writer.
Okay, allow me to give a summary of the way I see the story, because I know some people weren't entirely sure what all this meant in the end. What you saw down there in the cellar was the son of James and Catherine Blackwood. It's possible that the mask that James brought back was really cursed the way he thought it was. It's possible that everything we read about that is absolutely true, and he brought back a cursed mask that contained some sort of ancient evil deity that would bring, well, that would curse his entire family and everything he touched. It would make sense, considering that he said that suddenly all plants in the greenhouse were even withering and dying in an unnatural way even. And probably the influence of the mask also influenced their child, which they had around that time, and caused it to be born as a very horrible, disfigured creature that maybe you remember those weird drawings that I found, I think in the first episode, in the room that you were sleeping in, that the doctor had used as well. There was the bag of the doctor, and it had drawings of a weird creature in it. I think it says H.P. Lovecraft in the credits. I think those drawings were also the doctor drawing the child, and he probably faked the death of the kid, and in reality it was hidden in the basement and regularly fed by him. Remember that we found a bill for meat in the attic where the newspapers are as well. We found a bill for meat there that wasn't that old. So the doctor, even after the death of Catherine and James, stayed there and regularly fed the child that was locked away, or the creature that was locked away in the basement. And it was probably that creature that killed Catherine, not James. It was probably that creature that ripped her throat open, just as it ripped open the throat of the teddy bear. So that was probably how Catherine died, and James then buried her to keep the hidden son in the basement, to keep that a secret. But that is when the maid saw him, and the maid thought that he killed his wife, because the maid didn't know about the kid in the basement, the kid creature in the basement. Why James died of a heart attack, I'm not sure, but apparently he tried some kind of ritual himself to get rid of the curse, and we can only speculate. Maybe he wasn't strong enough. Who knows what the mask did to him, if it is really true and real. And the scratches that you would hear every night, that was the creature in the basement creating a passage to the outside world. That's what we saw at the very end. The hole that led to the outside world was the creature for years scraping away the ceiling, trying to get out. Anything else to say? There is an additional episode in the director's cut, The Last Visit, which is a short one, and it gives a different perspective. I don't like it very much, so I'm not even going to play it. It gives you a less supernatural explanation. When you investigate in that episode, you play somebody else, and you find some more of these, some more info on these medicine bottles that were in the main bedroom, and there is the speculation that maybe Catherine was taking some medicine that caused the baby to be disfigured, and the whole mask thing was not actually real. I like to think it was real, because that is just much scarier, that you're dealing with some kind of ancient entity trapped in a mask. But I also like that it's kind of opened, but not too open. Like, it's not like you have no idea what's going on and there are a bazillion ways of explaining it. There's pretty much only two ways of seeing it. Either the mask was real, which I like to believe because that's scarier, as I said, at least to me, or it's not. Pick whichever you like. I hope you liked this whole Let's Play. It was the first time that I ever did something like this. Maybe I'll do it again. I think I will, at least because of a certain friend for whom I'm doing these mainly. And there are many more games I want to show to him. And if anybody else who happens to watch this too enjoys it as well, then that's just even better. So, thanks for watching, and see you next time, I hope.